Good morning, Sean. I wanted to make you a video just outlining the sequences first, and then I'll do the entries second. So the first video is on the sequence only. So we start with I've alternated different colors for each sequence. So odd numbers are going to be in white and even numbered sequences will be in blue so that they are easily identifiable. So we start with the first sequence of a pole followed by a flag. There's your pole and there's your flag. Now the flag ends with this anchor, which is probably this bar, so we have to move this line over one. Okay, but there is your first sequence and it is marked. The flag is this piece here and I've marked that for there. Okay, moving on to flag number 2, which will be in blue. The first trend line is a upward sloping pole, and the second trend line to form in second sequence is a downward sloping trend line, and it ends like that. So there's your sequence. You have your pole, which is here, okay, and your flag, which is here. It ends, the flag ends with that anchor, the pole ends with this anchor. When we come to measure, the pole is going to look something like this. The flag pole will look something like that. Okay, that's the idea. That's a nice looking flag. Even though the pole, the trend line pole is down here, the measurement of the pole is going to be like that. Okay, so we move on to number 3. Odd number will be white. You could see the pole has already started to form over here at the time of the completion of the second sequence, and on number 3 a second pole forms. Okay, the second pole, second trend line in sequence number 3 is a upward sloping pole. So there it ends with the formation of this anchor, which is here, hence this downward sloping line. So sequence number 3 is a pole followed by a second pole, and the flag is obviously missing, which would have been somewhere like that, but it never formed. So we mark this as a no flag sequence. Moving on to number 4. Now remember, the second pole of number 3 will be the first pole of number 4, like that. First pole of number 4. Okay, and that is the case. There's the pole and there is the downward sloping flag. That completes number 4, which happens very shortly after. Remember, the completion for number 4 only happens with the completion of this flag, which is over here. So again, to recap this little tricky situation here, this is number 3. Okay, the pole, there is no flag. This was the second upward trend line which defined the no flag in 3. We use the second trend line as the first trend line in number 4 and use it as the pole followed by the flag, and that ends over here for number 4, and this one is the end for number 3. Okay, moving on to number 5. Here's the pole. It seems to have formed already, followed by a flag, and we end it. That was a pretty straightforward sequence. Number 6, even number, so it's blue. Pole forms. Okay, that's the first trend line in the sequence. The second trend line in the sequence is another pole, as evidenced by the second anchor. There is no downward sloping trend line in the 6th sequence. So the pole is here. The second pole is complete here. So this ends the 6th sequence, and we use the second upward sloping trend line in number 6 as the pole in number 7. Okay, now this would be the flag for number 6 there. Okay, but we'll come back to that. In the meantime, we use the second. Number 6 is complete. There it is, got no flag. It's number 6 is complete over here. Moving on for number 7. Okay, so there it is. We used the pole from number 6, second trend line drawn in number 6, as the first trend line for number 7, and it is the pole. It's upward sloping followed by a downward sloping which ends here. Okay, that's number 7 complete. I've marked it in white. Number 8 will be in blue as it is even. So we have the first trend line in 8 is a downward sloping trend line, and it is a flag, and there is no pole in this sequence. We will mark it in later. Number 9 is odd, and it is in white. Number 9, at the time of the finishing of the flag on number 8, it seems as though number 9's pole had already started, okay, and only completed at this bar, 1 bar later. And we continue for a second trend line, which is a second upward sloping pole. So number 9 has no flag. The pole is over here, and the second pole is this one. We use it for number 10. Okay, and number 10, the first trend line is an upward sloping one. We know that already. And the second trend line is downward sloping, which is completed over here. And there it is. There's your downward sloping trend line. That's your flag, number 10, complete and clean. I hope that's clear. Now we'll move to entries.